Continuing the discussion in limits. So now let's proceed to theorem number 10. 10 and 11. So pagsasamahin na natin siya, no? Then I'm going to give you after that examples. So theorem number 10, let the f of x or function as large as it may be by making x or the variable close enough but not equal to a real number a. Then, theorem number 10, where limits of 1 over x raised to n and n be any positive number and the limits x approaches to 0, so the answer is infinity. According to the properties, now if I have a limits of a function tapos where x approaches to a, ibig sabihin, approaches to a very large amount number, of course, the function will also have a very large amount of number which is approaching or equals to infinity. If happens that the denominator will be very small enough or 1 divided by a very small number, syempre magiging infinity siya. Okay, based on the table that will explain kung bakit nagiging infinity ang sagot, if x or the base of the denominator approaching to 0, now from 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, and so on and so forth, until it reaches almost equals to 0. So, ang mangyayari, the function itself, okay, this function, itong function na to, pag dinivide natin si 1 by 0.1, the answer will become 10. Again, from 0.01 divided by the denominator, the answer will become 100. So, habang papaliit ng papaliit si value papunta kay 0, si function naman papalaki ng papalaki. That's why the answer is infinity. And also in limits at infinity, so theorem number 11 tayo, a function or f of x may have a finite or finite limit even when the independent variable x becomes infinite. If we have 1 divided by x, okay, ano naman mangyayari kay x? Si x naman daw ay palaki ng palaki. Okay, ang sagot ng magiging function ay magiging 0 as long that our base becomes very large. So kabaliktaran ng 11 si 10. So theorem number 11, if I have limits of a function where function is 1 over x raised to n. Now, same with theorem number 10, but differ in the limits. This time, our limits x approaches infinity. So, habang papalaki naman ng papalaki si denominator, ang mangyayari, okay, ang sagot, magiging paliit naman ng paliit until it reaches 0. So, vice versa yung dalawa. But before we go to the examples, okay, let me introduce first yung mga rules regarding infinity. Kasi may encounter natin, no? The answer can be an infinity or 0. So, sa infinity, we have to evaluate first, paano ba ina-apply or pag nagkaroon ka ng sagot ng infinity, no? Let's say, I have, ito ko na nasusulat. Let's say, I have infinity plus infinity. In the adding to infinity numbers. Ano yung magiging sagot? Okay, again, infinity is actually an answer, but hindi siya value, ha? Kasi hindi siya exact value. Value siya, pero infinity nga lang. So, what is the answer? Okay, you cannot say to infinity. No? Kasi hindi naman variable si infinity. Na para masabihin mo infinity, infinity, copy, or similar terms. Tapos, just add. No? Hindi pa pwedeng maging to infinity yan. That's wrong. So, ano yung pwedeng gawin ngayon natin? So, parang may, pag-analyze nito, parang may sobrang laki kang pera, daming pera, dagdagan mo pa ng sobrang dami or laking pera, So, ibig sabihin, sobrang yaman mo. Kaya the answer is still infinity. Okay? Hindi lang ako sanay magsulat dito sa isa pad. Ayan, infinity pa rin. So, for example, I have 2 infinity. Let's say may 2 infinity ka. Now, plus infinity. Still, the answer is infinity. Okay, what if I have a real value, let's say 1, to be added by infinity? Ano naman magiging sagot? May piso ka, idadagdag ko sa trilyong piso. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin 3 trillion and 1 peso. So, the answer is still infinity pa rin. So, any number added by infinity, the answer is infinity. So, that's the rule. Okay, paano naman sa subtraction? Sabihin ko lang. Okay, sa subtraction naman, let's say I have infinity minus infinity. So, ano yung magiging sagot? Ay, hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin 0. Sir, kasi parehas infinity yan. No. Either the subtrahend, minuend, or subtrahend, hindi mo alam yung exact value ng infinity. Like what I said. Kaya hindi mo alam ngayon kung sino mas malaki. If the minuend is greater than subtrahend, positive siya, di ba? But if the subtrahend is greater than minuend, magiging negative. Since we don't know the exact value of infinity, so the answer is, okay, good, undefined. Because this expression is indeterminate. So, hindi natin alam which one is greater, the minuend or the subtrahend. So, undefined. Okay, so let's say I have 2 infinity minus infinity. Okay. Huwag niyo sasabihin, sir, yung minuend, obviously, no, mas malaki na sa subtrahend kasi 2 infinity siya. Again, hindi mo pa rin masasabi kung sino mas malaki sa dalawang infinity. Kung yung sa minuend ba or sa subtrahend. So, still, the answer is undefined. So, walang sagot sa limit sa pagka nagkaroon tayo example, walang sagot na undefined. Infinity, you may have an answer of infinity, but undefined, hindi pwede. Okay, so that's the rule in subtracting two infinities. Okay, next, how about multiplication? If I'm going to multiply, let's say, infinity. Okay, so ko lang muna konti. Okay, let's say I have infinity multiplied by infinity. Okay, ano yan? Infinity squared. Okay, hindi ini-squared ang infinity. So, ano yung pwedeng gawin ngayon natin? Oh, parang addition din. I'm going to add two infinities, di ba? Ang sagot, infinity pa rin. So, the same as this. The answer is still infinity. So, minsan common sense lang. No? Yung hindi mo iisipin na pure math. Kailangan din natin ng common sense, which is not common sa lahat. Okay, so same thing if I'm going to multiply 2 infinity times infinity. Okay, hindi mo pwedeng i-multiply na, sir, parang 2x times x lang yan or 2x squared. You cannot say 2 infinity squared. So, that's not equal. So, ang magiging sagot natin dyan is also equals to infinity. Oh, sorry. Infinity pa rin. So, that's the rule in multiplying infinity. Okay, how about in division? Okay, so for example, sa division, I have infinity divided by infinity. Sir, 1. Okay, it's not equal. Okay, exempted to, isa sa exemption to nung any number divided by a number or the same number is 1. So again, yes, infinity is a number but hindi siya exact. No, kaya hindi mo alam kung sino mas malaki sa numerator or sa denominator. Kung si numerator ay mas malaki sa denominator, the answer must be greater than 1. But if the denominator is greater than the numerator, of course, the answer is less than 1. Since you don't know which one is greater, if the numerator is greater or the denominator is greater, hindi natin alam. So, the answer here is, again, undefined. Because this form is also indeterminate. This is also undefined. How about if I have 2 infinity divided by infinity? Okay, sir, cancel infinity. The answer is 2. So, hindi rin pwede yun, ha? Again, both infinities, numerator or denominator, we don't know which one is bigger. No, kaya, hindi siya equals kay 2. Kaya, ang sagot ay still undefined. Pero again, hindi pwede tayong magkasagot na undefined sa limits. We have to evaluate the infinity in limits. Okay, so now, proceed tayo sa examples. Okay, in example number 1, tayo punta. Okay, find or evaluate the limits of 1 over x times the quantity 1/3 minus 1 over square root of x plus 9, where x approaches to 0. So, by inspection, by looking first, bilisan tingin. If x approaches to 0, directly substituting the value of x to 0 in the first function, 1 divided by 0 is actually undefined na. Again, recall tayo ha. Para hindi nyo makalimutan, paulit-ulit kong sinasabi to. Any number divided by 0 is undefined because that form is indeterminate. So, hindi pwede maging 0 ang denominator. So, dito pa lang, you cannot say the answer is undefined. We have to evaluate first, okay, the fraction or the function, tapos saka natin i-apply si limits. Hindi kasi natin ma-apply agad si limits. So, evaluating this part, okay, paano natin gagawin? Okay, applying the rule of the limits. So, equals. Sabi, sa multiplication, we can separate yung mga functions. Ano ba nangyari doon? You can separate the function limits of 1 over x times, separate ko, no? Limits of 1/3 minus 1 over x plus 9. Okay, where x approaches to 0. Okay, so continue tayo. Limits of 1 over x, where x approaches to 0, we can separate the quantity. So, limits of 1/3 minus limits of 1 over x plus 9. And both x or limits approaches to 0. So, kailangan alim natin yung basic rule or theorems rin ng limits. Okay, now, on the first function, this one, so pwede na natin i-apply yung theorem number 10. Now, limits of a function of 1 over x, where x approaches to 0 is actually already or infinity na siya. Okay, how about limits of 1/3 if x approaches to 0? So, 1/3 is a constant, walang kinalaman kay x. The answer is 1/3. Okay, minus. Okay, this one, pwede ba nating evaluate na if x is 0? Yes. So, kung pag-ihiwalay natin yung numerator and denominator, limits of 1 is 1, constant kasi siya, divided by yung limits, pwede natin ipasok dito sa loob. Medyo shortcut ng ginagawa ko, no? So, isa-isay natin. Limits of x, where x approaches to 0 is 0. So, we have square root of 0 plus limits of 9. 9 is constant, is 9. Okay, so we have infinity to be multiplied by 1/3. 0 plus 9 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. So, over 1/3. So, infinity times 0. So, ayan. Obviously, any number multiplied by 0 is 0. So the answer is 0. Okay, so ganyan lang sa pag-evaluate ng limits and also the infinity. Importante yon. Example number 2. Evaluate limits of 4 over x squared where x approaches infinity. So by inspection, if you're going to directly substitute the limits nasa denominator, so dito tingin, okay, hindi pa pwedeng 4 divided by infinity. No? Kasi naka-squared. No? What I mean, walang infinity squared. So, hindi natin basta-basta pwedeng i-direct substitute. No? So, we can separate the denominator. Yung 4 over x squared can be written as pwedeng 1 over x times 1 over x times 4. So, ganyan ang pwedeng mangyari. So, this is the same as 4 over x squared. So, we can rewrite the problem into limits where x approaches infinity by 1 over x times 1 over x times 4. And applying the theorem of limits, so we have limits of 1 over x times limits of 1 over x times limits of 4. Where x or infinity approaches, x approaches infinity. So applying theorem number 1 on the first function, so this is 0 times 0 times 4. Right, this is also approaches infinity. So 0 multiplied by 0 and 4, so the answer is also equals to 0. Example number 3. Evaluate limits of 5x squared plus 7 divided by 3x squared minus x, where x approaches infinity. So by inspection again, if you're going to substitute the limits of infinity to both numerator and denominator, so sa numerator, magiging infinity, no? Kasi 5 times infinity is infinity plus 7 still infinity. Sa denominator, okay, doon pala, magkakaproblema na. Okay, why? 3 times infinity is infinity minus infinity is undefined. So, infinity divided by undefined, mas lalong magulo. So, hindi pa pwedeng direct substitute natin yon. So, if you're going to think of a way in solving this problem, you have to reformat or reorganize first the function, yung pinaka-problem. So, paano natin i-reform yan? So, kung tutuusin, this fraction is what? Improper. Okay, bakit naging improper? Kasi by looking on the degree ibig sabihin ng exponent ng bawat term. The degree of the numerator is the same degree on the denominator. Ibig sabihin, naka-second degree. Ibig sabihin ng second degree, the highest degree of the expression is 2. The highest degree of the expression, dito may 2, may 1. So, 2 yung kukunin natin is both on the second degree. So, equal kasi sila, kaya improper siya. Kung sa fraction yan, di ba ang improper, mas malaki ang numerator kaysa sa denominator. If both numerator and denominator are equal, okay, di din natin pwedeng basta i-divide. No? So, ganun din ang process or how to evaluate if the expression or algebraic expression is proper or improper. So, by looking on the degree. Kaya, ito, equal yung degree, so it is improper. Ano ginagawa natin sa fraction pag improper? I-dinivide. Pag dinivide, we're going to have a mixed number, combination of a whole number and a fraction. But at that time, yung fraction na yon ay proper na. So, dito, hindi na natin kailangan pang i-divide. We need to do simple factoring na lang para mas mabilis. But if you're going to divide, try it. Tingnan nyo kung ano mangyayari. So, ganun din naman yung mangyayari So we have to reformat or rearrange first the function para ma-apply ang limits. So if we're going to do factoring here, okay, so paano ba? Factorable ba? Okay, minsan kasi pag hindi na siya factorable, hindi na natin magagawa ng paraan. Yung numerator actually non-factorable na siya, no? Kasi walang common or greatest common factor between the first term and the second term. But on the denominator, there is a common factor of x. So we have 3x minus 1. But again, if we're going to apply this kind of factoring, wala pa rin masosolve. Still, no, magiging undefined pa rin ang sagot. No, kasi infinity times, okay, yung 3x minus 1 still infinity. Infinity times infinity, infinity. So the denominator will become infinity, the numerator is infinity, infinity divided by infinity is undefined pa rin. Okay, dito kasi sa original, infinity minus infinity undefined na. So we cannot do this kind of factoring. Okay, nasusundan ako. So ulitin ko. For example, I have 5x squared plus 7. Ang mapafactor lang natin is x sa denominator. So we have 3x minus 1. So if I'm going to apply limits of 5x squared plus 7 over x, 3x minus 1, where x approaches infinity. So direct substitution tayo, no? 5 times infinity plus 7 divided by infinity times 3 infinity minus 1. Okay, so infinity plus 7 is infinity. Infinity times 3 infinity minus 1 is still infinity. So 5 times infinity is infinity. Infinity times infinity is infinity. So the answer is undefined. So hindi pwede yun. So cannot be. So buburahin ko ulit. So, ang pwede natin gawin, we have to think of another way in factoring the equation. Kasi hindi nga pwede yun. Hindi pwede tayong magkaroon ng sagot na undefined. Mali na to. Okay, so gagawin natin, since denominator ang may problema, okay, lalabas na natin si x squared. Sir, paano magiging common factor? Yung common factor lang naman ay x. Okay, okay lang yon as long na may babalik na itong gagawin natin bago, may babalik natin sa dati. So, yung x squared, if I'm going to divide by 3x squared, matitira na lang 3 minus yung x squared by x. So, kailangan may matira ang isang x, no? Pero kasi nilabas na natin x squared, kaya magkakaroon pa tayo ng 1 over x. Okay, nasusundan. So, check. X squared times 3 is 3x squared. X squared times negative 1 over x is x. Okay, so sa numerator, ganun din. We can move out yung x squared. Yung 5x squared, may x squared na sa labas, meron na lang akong 5. Plus, yung 7 kailangan matira. Samantalang nilabas na akong x squared, wala namang x squared sa 7. So, I can write down 7 over x squared. Okay, again, check. 5 times x squared is 5x squared. 7x squared times x squared, cancel si x squared, matitira si 7. Okay, so now we can cancel out x squared. Okay, nasusundan ba? So we can rewrite the problem into limits of, okay, this time, yun na yan, 5 plus 7 over x squared. Wait. Sorry about it. X squared divided by 3 minus 1 over x, where x approaches infinity. Okay, continue tayo. So, we can separately, okay, yung numerator and the denominator according sa theorem ng limits. So we have limits of 3 minus 1 over x, where x approaches infinity. Okay, so sa numerator, you can also separate both terms. Okay, and now we can evaluate now the limits. Limits of 5, which is a constant, so 5. Limits of 7 over x squared. Okay, this one, itong part na to, kasi wala namang infinity squared, we can make use of this now. 1 over x times 1 over x times 7. So, katulad ng ginawa natin. So, yung 1 over x, where x approaches infinity, is 0. This is also 0. So, 0 times 0 times 7 is 0. Okay, so nakakasunod ba doon? Again, kung may question, you can DM me or comment doon sa dito sa YouTube natin. Okay, so sa denominator, we have limits of constant, which is 3. Okay, minus, okay, limits of 1 over x, where x approaches infinity is 0. So 5 plus 0 is 5, 3 minus 0 is 3. So the answer is 5/3. Okay, so that's it for our discussion on limits. So, magkakaroon ngayon ako end na tayo ng discussion ng limits, no? So, we're going to next proceed sa differentiation of algebraic function. Magsimula na tayo ng calculus sa pamamagitan ng algebra. But before we go there, ibibigay ko na sa inyo yung pinaka-assignment ninyo. Okay, I'm going to give also the instruction. So, sabi natin, we're going to use lettering guide. Tapos, pwedeng gawin nyo na agad to. Pwedeng pabanjing-banjing muna. But, huwag nyo iipunin ng sobra ha, kasi dadami yung trabaho nyo. So, on exercise 1 and 1.2, so on exercise 1, you have problems from 1 to 10. Choose only 5. Mamimili lang kayo ng 5 ha. Sa exercise 1.2 naman, choose also 5. So, 5 lang. So, paano ngayon ang magiging format nung sa assignment ninyo? So, ito yung lagi nyo nang gagawin. On your format that you're going to do, you're going to write it on a short bond paper. Short, not A4, not long. Ha? Short bond paper. So, sa short bond paper, let's say this is the short bond paper. Oh, sorry. Wait lang. On your short bond paper, okay, you're going to put a margin from top up to this point. Okay, na ang dimension ay okay, 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches siya ha. Okay, tapos on the first part, write your name. Oh, sorry. Ayan, ito. Okay, dito na lang. Sa first part, ulitan ko lang. Oops. So, sa first part na lang ha, lagay niyo yung name nyo. Okay, unahin ang apelyido, surname, first name, and middle initial. Okay, next is course, year, and section. Okay, tapos subject, tapos date, tapos assignment number. Okay, kung siya ay 1, since this is assignment number 1, write 1. Okay, ilalagay nyo lahat ito dito sa loob. Okay, so huwag kakalimutan itong part na to dito sa short bond paper, sa short bond paper, tapos i-staple nyo of course dito yan, no? Hindi it. So, pagka in-staple ninyo, okay, may staple na dito sa part na yan. So, naka-staple yan. Tapos, at the back of the paper, ay sorry ba, staple ba? Dito pala sa kabila. Hindi dito, ano? Mali ako. Dito yung stapler niyan. Dito sa part na to. Okay? So, pagka-staple nyo dyan, yung likod, pinakalikod, at the back of your paper. Halimbawa, likod. Likod. Okay. Basta yung likod na lang. Yung likod, lalagyan nyo ng tape. Yung pinakapaa. Yung paa ng bala ng stapler, may paa yun na dalawa. Lalagyan nyo yun, tatakpan nyo yun ng tape. Okay, tape, any tape. Masking tape, electric tape, band-aid, basta tape. Para hindi makasugat. So, iipunin nyo to, lahat ng assignment ninyo, ilalagay sa short brown envelope. So, you're going to maybe minimum or at least 5 assignments na ibibigay ko, pero it can be more than 5 assignments. Ilalagay sa short brown paper. At the end of the semester, or 1 week before final exam, you're going to submit it to me. So, siguro by then, pwede nang lumabas kayo, no? Pwedeng isubmit na yan sa school. Doon kukunin. Okay? Remember, your compilation of your assignments is equivalent to 1 quiz. So, that's it for the first, for the first topic, dividing function and limits. Okay, so again, if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell para ma-update kayo sa mga bagong video ni a-upload ko. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for listening and be safe. God bless us all.